Dealing with the in-laws could be exceptionally stressful, especially if it's your partner's in-laws. Now, I'm really dedicating this film for women who are having to deal with the sister-in-law or the mother-in-law, because in actual fact, and you don't have to be married for this, it doesn't have to be exactly an in-law. In actual fact, sometimes it's actually more difficult dealing with the sister-in-law than it actually is dealing with the mother-in-law, believe it or not. So one of the ways to actually deal with when a woman is being difficult, you see, the problem is you have taken their man. I mean, obviously not that they were seeing that person in the same way. But what ends up happening is women can be very territorial around the men in their lives, whether or not that man is their personal partner or whether or not that man is their son or their brother. And so really we're looking at those dynamics and those relationships here. The thing is you scare them. You might not realise this, but you scare them. It's not just a case of they don't like you, you're not good enough, there's something wrong with you, and that it doesn't matter what you do, that you could put a clown nose on and get across the floor in an SAS manoeuvre and try and avoid them, turn up with amazing cakes. It's not going to work. Because at the end of the day, women can be the biggest bullies against other women. Anyone who has had a female boss can actually find that they can feel bullied by that boss, or even other female colleagues can be particularly difficult against each other. I don't quite understand why that is. Really, women should be supportive of each other. But for some reason, we actually end up in some kind of like conflict quite often with each other. The way to get past this conflict is again to become curious about what it is that is triggering them against you. So the first thing that we usually do is become defensive. We feel that we need to protect ourselves or put in something in a kind of like our gut region to be able to kind of like push against them. And so quite often we'll end up using our gut-based intuition. We will frisk them with the solar plexus chakra and try and work out ways in which we can either impress them, make us like us, because it's important. Because if you are in love with this person, your partner, you need his family to like you. So at the end of the day, because it's important, you feel vulnerable. And whether or not you really care to recognise that, or whether or not you just think, well, if they don't like me, I don't care. Well, that's not really true, is it? Because there's something important. Otherwise, well, let's face it, you wouldn't be watching this film. So by becoming curious about them and looking at what it is that they feel insecure about, because they are in fear. It may be that they feel insecure about losing a man in their life that for them gives them some sense of security. It may be that they don't have that feeling of security in other areas of their life. It may be that they don't feel loved. And when we actually start to recognise all of these things, quite often we can see them in ourselves. I'm not saying that all women feel exactly the same all of the time, but I certainly feel that we have all probably had moments of those feelings. And when we connect with another woman's vulnerability and we see their vulnerability, in actual fact we find it very hard to become a little prickly or defensive against them. And then when we see their vulnerability and we actually open up into our vulnerability, something remarkable happens. Peace. Suddenly, all of the anguish and all of the warfare suddenly stops. And it's not that you actually have to physically do anything or even have a conversation about it. It's the fact that you are in your level of stillness, open, being, softness and femininity means that we are not coming into the doing, fixing, sorting, masculine clash. And by doing that, we actually open our hearts and they open their hearts in resonance with us. It may take a little bit of time, but certainly I have done this with female bosses. For some reason, I was always getting bullied by female bosses and people in authority, and I tried everything just to get them on side until I stopped trying and saw that as a very powerful woman myself, they were very insecure and seeing me as a threat. I didn't see myself as a powerful woman, and you probably don't see yourself as a powerful woman either, but they do. They see a powerful woman trying not to be, and that becomes threatening, curious, strange. So the minute we actually get into our vulnerability, we're still powerful. We don't lose being a powerful woman, but we offer the opportunity to open our hearts, intuitively read them, connect the things that we have in common, which is probably the love of this man. And once we connect those two things together, peace can actually come, and you can find yourself having really good relationships with people that you thought you could never spend another Christmas with if it was the last thing you ever had to do. good luck. It's always a bit difficult, but at the end of the day, softness wins the battle over strength.